What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the White Seed channel. We got something interesting for you guys today. I got Max and Cherry here with me. We're going to be talking about movies. We've never done one of these movie analyses before, if that's how you say that word, but I'm excited to get into it. We decided to go with the Matrix series to start out. Obviously, the Matrix 4 is going to be coming out this year, and we want to be able to go through the first three movies, catch up on the storyline, so that when it comes to the Matrix 4, we can give you all an awesome review for that. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. We're gonna start off with some facts about the movie, and then we're gonna get into our little bit of analysis that we got from the movie, what we loved, what we hated, if there's anything that we did hate, which there's a few things.
There's going to be a lot.
There's going to be a lot.
There's a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Going to be a few things for me.
Not a flawless movie at all.
No.
Picky.
We're not going to pretend that this was a flawless movie. But the movie premiered on March 31st, 1999 in the United States. It was written and directed by the Wachowski sisters. At the time, they were known as the Wachowski brothers. That's what they're credited on IMDb, but they are now the Wachowski sisters. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 16 minutes. It was filmed in Sydney, Australia. Fun fact, the street names are named after Chicago streets, which is where the Wachowski sisters grew up. And it was published by Warner Bros. Studios and Village Roadshow Pictures. It stars Keanu Reeves as Neo, Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity, and Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. All right, so now that we got all those cool little factoids out of the way, I want to give you guys a speed round of 5 interesting things that I found out about this movie. Some you may know, some you may not, but we'll see how you guys react to it. All right, so
yeah, I'm probably not going to know any of these.
I had to dig for a lot of these. Some of these are pretty cool, though. So the first one is Lana and Lily Wachowski originally were writing The Matrix to be a comic book, and they had previous experience writing for this small comic book company called Marvel.
Yeah. I think it would have done a lot better as a comic
Really?
book, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
we're already
Yeah.
getting spicy here. Okay.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I think, and just to go in a little more in depth with that, I think this movie really plays out a lot like a comic book, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I could easily see this being in comic book form. But
Never really thought about it, but yeah.
yeah, I could see a lot of kablams and kapows going on screen and stuff like that. But the second fact we got is originally Warner Brothers did not want the Wachowski sisters to make The Matrix. They didn't think they had the experience for it. They had never written and directed a movie prior to pitching The Matrix. And to prove the Warner Brothers wrong, they wrote and directed an entirely other movie called Bound, which was a moderate success. And that convinced Warner Bros. Enough to give them the budget they needed for the movie, which honestly, I don't know if you can get away with that nowadays. I think the budget for this movie was around $45 million. And to give $45 million to a couple of people that have only directed one movie, I think that's pretty impressive. But good on them. It obviously worked out for them.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to even today. Like, there's a lot of movies out right now that like are, critically acclaimed success. Like, I think Parasite.
Right, Parasite. Yeah.
I think that was that director's first venture into making movies. So,
Really?
And
Wow.
that was, I mean, Parasite's one of the best films from. It was 2020, right?
Yeah, I think it was from last year, beginning of last
Yeah.
year, like right before the pandemic really started going a little crazy. But for the next fact, we're going to go into the what could have beens, who could have been casted for these different roles, and we're going to go through Neo and Morpheus.
Okay.
There are 2 actors that officially turned down the role for Neo. Those actors were Will Smith and Nicolas Cage. Will
Smith would have been fucking awesome in this.
He would have been fun. Will Smith has posted a video on his personal channel explaining why he turned this down. He said he had just come off of working on Independence Day, Men in Black, and he didn't want to be known as the alien sci-fi actor. He didn't want to kind of push himself into a sort of a box. Yeah. And so he went on to work on a movie called Wild Wild West. which he regrets. He doesn't.
Such a great movie. Such a great dumpster fire of a movie. I love it.
Maybe one day we could do one of these for Wild Wild West. That'd be
Oh, I
funny.
would love to. I'd absolutely love to.
Oh man. Nicolas Cage has been asked about whether he regrets it or not. Of course, the Nicolas Cage faction, he says, "I have no regrets." But he does say that if he took that role, it probably would have propelled his career a little quicker than it already did. For Morpheus, there's some big name. Well, actually, there's a couple more actors that were considered. Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, and Leo DiCaprio were all considered for the role of Neo, but there's no info out there of whether or not they got pitched the idea or if they declined it or not.
Yeah, I can't really see any of those actors in a Morpheus character.
I mean, I could, or no, that's Neo.
Neo.
Oh, you're talking about Neo. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm still
yeah.
talking about Neo.
Honestly, you said Johnny Depp, and my brain just went to him as Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Just like
In the Matrix.
Wall running
Like
Captain Jack
character
Sparrow.
In the Matrix.
just
I'd watch it.
I'd watch
It's
it.
hilarious.
I'd watch it over this movie, probably. Honestly, I could definitely see a late '90s Tom Cruise being Neo, though. That's probably would have been the best fit, other than Keanu Reeves, because I love Keanu Reeves, and I think this was a great role for him. And
It would have been
alternatively,
interesting too. But,
yeah. Alternatively, the role for Morpheus was turned down by Russell Crowe, Samuel L. Jackson, and Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Sean Connery turned down the role because he didn't understand the script. It was too much for his brain to handle. So I guess he just said no to it. And apparently he's done that before with the Lord of the Rings. So there's a few things that he has. He can only work on submarines and British spy movies. So,
Yeah, those seem like good picks for that
Yeah.
character.
yeah, I could definitely see a Sean Connery being Morpheus.
Samuel L. Jackson would have been fucking hilarious.
I know, and I think it's funny because I'll get into this more later, but a lot of the acting in this movie is a lot of the same. It's very stiff. It's very monotone. Pretty much all the characters kind of act the same, and I can't imagine the color and the flair that would have been added if you had Nick Cage as Neo and Samuel L. Jackson as Morpheus. It's just one of those what if things that would be kind of interesting to think about, but you know. So the next fact I got is the talent had to train for 4 months due to the Wachowski sisters wanting them to do their own stunts. Prior to training, Keanu Reeves had a cervical spine surgery, and he was required to wear a neck brace the entire time while he was training for the movie. This caused difficulties with his legs, making it difficult for him to kick. The source that I read said that that's why you don't see many kicks by Neo in the movie. I don't know. I saw a lot of kicks, so I don't know how.
Yeah.
Especially
There's
that kung fu fight between Morpheus and Neo when they were training. Yeah, no, he threw like 100 kicks during that fight.
Yeah,
so.
and that last kick to fucking Agent Smith at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, very articulated.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. So I think that just shows how awesome this cast was and how much they were willing to put into this. Some of the injuries that happened on the set were interesting too. Let's see. Hugo Weaving, who plays Agent Smith, had to have hip surgery after the movie because of all the damage that was done to his body during the filming.
Oh, no.
Carrie Ann Moss, who played Trinity, injured both her ankle and her hip. Apparently, we have a string of hip injuries here. And Lawrence Fishburne actually got his eyelid sliced open during one of the fighting scenes with Agent Smith when he got hit in the head. So a lot of on-set injuries. Probably won't fly today anymore what they were doing.
I mean,
But
with the myriad of like crazy shit that you see happening in the movie, it's
my
a
God.
wonder that that's all that they walked away with.
yeah, and I definitely want to talk about the cinematics of this
Like,
movie.
Neo got
because it's
shot
nuts.
like
Yeah,
7 times in the chest.
we'll get more into that for sure.
Yeah.
And then lastly, for our last little fact here, the scene where Neo and Trinity get into a gunfight with the security guards and the SWAT team in the lobby over by that security station, it lasted for 3 minutes and it took them 10 days to film because all of the explosions and gunfire were practical effects, meaning that they were actually real live fire explosives and weapons. Also, honorable mention, the bullet time effect was actually invented for the Matrix. So if you ever see that in another movie, see the bullet time effect where you see the ripples with the bullets and they stop and they slow down. That's all thanks to the people that worked on the Matrix. What do you guys want to start with? What are you thinking? Any specific points, plots, cinematics?
I mean, let's talk about that hallway scene, I guess.
Yeah, we can talk about
mess of a fucking scene.
It was one of the wildest scenes. I mean, I don't remember it being that wild. It must have been because I was just being hyper focused on the movie, but the amount of stuff that was happening in that scene and the amount of little explosives that looked like were going off in these walls, it was really impressive. I can see why it took him 10 days to do that.
The first half of the entire encounter, they don't hit anyone with any bullets. Like,
they're just wasting ammo.
just sitting here like, how are you guys this incompetent? Like,
I know.
Because, like, they've had how much, like, crammed into their brains in the way of combat?
That's what I'm saying.
They just miss for the first
like
minute and a half.
How do you beam like 10 hours of kung fu into someone's head and you just missed? Oh, hey, maybe we should, put aiming in there.
Yeah, maybe we should put some rifle training.
Something.
Yeah, and that's definitely a theme that kind of follows throughout this movie. There's a lot of missed shots by both the team with Neo, Morpheus, and that whole team, and the agents. Obviously, the last scene where Neo is running to jump out of the window to get to the helicopter, Agent Smith stands up and starts blasting, trying to follow him. He misses every goddamn shot that he took at
And
Neo.
then when they started using the minigun.
Yeah, that
the fucking minigun into the building. Morpheus is just sitting there, static in a chair.
I know. I was so concerned for Morpheus.
No one's getting hit.
No.
And then by the end of it, the other agents do get hit, but like Morpheus got nothing.
I know.
And the room is Swiss cheesed.
Yeah, that whole scene, I was so concerned for Morpheus's safety. I said, I've seen the movie, but I'm like thinking of it, and I'm like, oh my god, Morpheus should be dead right now. Like this whole thing should be over.
Trying to save him.
Yeah.
And then going back to the hallway scene with the security guards. Emily, like she pointed out something like that I really never really thought about whenever I first watched the movie, and it's that like these are real people. Like, these aren't NPCs just walking around. Like, they're not everybody in there is software. So like, they just went in there and murked everyone. Yeah, and like those are real people that died that had like this was their Sunday.
Exactly.
and these two Columbine-looking motherfuckers just waltz in with a whole armory tank of
it's pretty terrifying
guns and just end their lives.
Yeah,
and they're like, they don't fucking know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think it goes
absolutely
back.
Crazy.
I remember thinking of another scene when that scene happened because I had the same thought as you. I'm like, good God, they're just murking these poor security guards working in this, skyscraper tower. Like whatever. Yeah. These guys didn't sign up for this. And then I thought back when Neo first joined the team, Morpheus and Trinity made it very clear to him that everyone is your enemy, because at any moment those AIs, they can just jump into a body, and that was before you actually saw any of the agents jump into another body. They told him that. So, thinking back, I guess they just didn't value anybody's life in that movie, and no matter what, their ideals justified the means. You know what I mean?
Like, the most in the way of agents that they ever saw throughout the entire movie was 3 at a time.
Right.
And it was a very obvious change, so they were just shooting to shoot.
Yeah. They didn't care whatsoever. Everybody was a vessel for those agents in their eyes.
Yeah.
So. Speaking of fight scenes, I do want to highlight my favorite fight scene, which is actually the hand-to-hand fight between Neo and Agent Smith in the abandoned subway. After Trinity is able to escape back to the ship. Part of this kind of pissed me off because, look, I understand it was to set up the fight, and I appreciate that it set up the fight. But at the end of the day, Trinity should have just shut up, grabbed the phone, gone in, and Keanu could have came in right after her. She talked to him for like
Oh yeah, because
30 seconds while the phone was ringing, and the whole time I am getting so frustrated. And I know a lot of action movies do this where characters will just stop each other and they'll talk, but I just wish there was another way to go about it. Like, you could have easily just had Agent Smith morph into the homeless guy, you know, or quicker, and it just do play that scene out as it was. You didn't need to add all that in,
especially since she didn't even share what she was going to say anyways.
No, it's like you said nothing to me, and it's like this could have been an email, you know. But with that said, I do appreciate that fight happened, because I thought that was some of the most awesome hand-to-hand combat in the whole movie. It had some great wire work. Keanu killed it. And then you also finally got to see the true power of Agent Smith. I don't think we've seen Agent Smith go full hand-to-hand combat up until that scene. And it really kind of put into perspective just how powerful these agents are, and how much you just can't mess with them, because Agent Smith was taking Neo to the cleaners up until the end. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite fighting scene. Do you guys have a particular hand-to-hand combat moment during that whole movie that you guys can think of that really stands out to you?
For me, it's definitely the fight between Morpheus and Neo, because it all feels very Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And like Neo just like coming to the realization that like, oh shit, like I can actually just kind of do whatever the fuck I want to here. Just really cool to see him, like, you know, actually learn and evolve with the surroundings. Yeah, that was. What about you?
Second verse, same as the first.
Oh, the Kung Fu?
Yeah.
It definitely reminded me of a lot of old cheesy Kung Fu movies, you know, Chinese made Kung Fu movies that I personally love watching because I love the wire work. I just think it's so fun to watch them fly around a room and just kick the shit out of each other. So seeing that was definitely a treat. I loved that part.
One thing that I kind of wish that they had kind of like kept the theme with was the whole Alice in Wonderland thing. Because like, you know, you have the song that plays in the back. I don't remember the name of the song. And then like, you know, Neo sees the chick that's getting the disc, and she's got the little white rabbit, and like that's what like makes him go. And then like, you know, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go, that kind of stuff. Like I wish that they like kept with that theme throughout the rest of the movie, but like it kind of just dropped off within like the first like third of the movie.
There's a lot of things that happen suddenly in this movie.
I think about halfway they did make like a Wonderland reference.
Did they?
Whenever they came around and like started to hint that what was the traitor's name?
Cypher.
Yeah, whenever they were first starting to hint that he wasn't a good guy, I think like they were talking about he didn't want to be in this Wonderland or something.
Oh, that
It was a very brief, like, I don't even know if that's the right spot that I'm thinking of, but it was there, just very brief.
Yeah, they just laid it on. They just laid it on so thick in the first like third of the movie. It just seemed like
you would think that would be a theme throughout. Speaking of thematic overtones with the movie, I do want to point out how kind of cool it is that this whole movie overall has a very philosophical tone to it, and a lot of the movie is about choices and free will. And one thing that I think is interesting, you know, Keanu's given two major choices at the beginning of the movie. The first time is when he's arrested by, well, I guess three, because he technically had a choice whether or not to try and get on the scaffolding or go with Agent Smith. He went with Agent Smith. Then when he was being interrogated, he had the other choice of working with Agent Smith or just being turned into a slave and getting bugged. And then obviously the red pill, blue pill scene that everyone knows about with Morpheus giving him that decision whether or not to go or to leave the Matrix. And the whole time Keanu, or I should say Neo, is very adamant about how he wants free will and to make his own decisions. But honestly, it seems like the whole movie, he doesn't have a lot of choices in this. It's either one way or the other. Either you're going with Agent Smith and becoming their slave, or you're going with Morbius because he thinks you're this chosen one and he's putting you up as a god. And I always kind of think about what would have been the scenario if he decided to say, no, I don't want to go with you, Morpheus. And how would Morpheus respond to that? You know what I mean? Because Morpheus obviously looked at him as the chosen one, the only hope for humanity. I don't think that would have really ended well for Neo.
Yeah, the illusion of choice in this movie is just all over the place. Like even kind of like
with the Oracle.
Yeah, with the Oracle. Like my like one like big fault with the movie is, you know, the Oracle just straight up lies to him. Like, yeah, you're not the fucking chosen one.
Yeah.
And then like it turns around as like, oh, you were supposed to get told that, otherwise you wouldn't have become the chosen one. It's like
manipulation.
Yeah, I don't. The whole Oracle kind of arc to that was kind of strange to me. I thought it was just really thrown in there haphazardly, and there wasn't much to it. I feel like it would have had a much bigger part. I mean, this is a woman that's literally determining the future and can see the future and knows what's going to happen. And they kind of just
they set it up. Because she was a cute little old lady in her apartment.
Cookies.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the scene. The scene itself was cool, but I'm just surprised that, I mean, pretty much after that scene, you don't hear about the Oracle whatsoever. I mean, it's pretty much it's over with at that point.
Well, she becomes more important in the later movies.
Right. I'm sure. I honestly can't really remember the next two movies. I haven't watched them in probably 10 years. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see about the 10 of those movies.
They diverge a lot.
Okay.
I think like a big reason why I don't care much for the second or third movie is because they are so different from what the Matrix is.
Yeah.
And like I know like I've been shitting on this movie this entire time. I love this movie. I don't mean to like come off like I'm like I hate it or anything.
Right.
Like I sat down to watch the movie and I was like, all right, I want to like kind of want to nitpick and like I want to see like I want to critically think about what's going on here.
Right.
And like you said, there's a lot of really good philosophical points in the movie. But what happens in the second and third movie is like they kind of they're not in the Matrix that much anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least not the Matrix as it was in the first movie. Especially with the third movie, you know, you get these like really dark cityscapes where there's no people around and it's just raining, and you know, it makes for good fight scenes, but like as far as like
Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah, but as far as like just general interest of like, you know, the world that you're in, like it's not really about the Matrix anymore. It's more about like the human and robot conflict that's happening outside in the real world.
Right. Yeah.
I think doing that kind of like took away from like what was like inherently interesting about the Matrix.
Yeah. I mean, whether or not you like the next movies, I do want to say though, they set up a sequel very well. I think that ending, how it ended, I mean, I got excited about a movie that's been out since 2003 and I know is not as good as this one. When watching Keanu or Neo go through the motions, kill Agent Smith, and just fly off into the air, I got physically excited. I got super excited. I was hyped for this next movie, and I'm looking forward to watching the next movie because, like I said, I don't remember a damn thing about either of them.
Yeah.
I really want to see where it goes now. I think they set that up perfectly.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then like the I don't know how much longer we're going to talk about it, but like I have one other thing that I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's just that like Neo's death. You know, he gets fucking, you know, plastered with bullets.
Yes.
And then like Trinity just like hovers over him, is just like,
get up, you fool. I love you.
Because I love you. And then you know, by the grace of the power of love, Neo just like gets back up, and it's like that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it made it very magical-esque. You know, it's like I don't know.
He's been dead for like at least 20 seconds.
Yeah,
like
he was done.
Can
I just say, speaking of that, I cannot stand the little romance arc that happened between Trinity and Neo. I did not like that at all. I think it was unneeded. I don't think it conveyed any sort of message. I think it was literally the only reason I think it was put in was a vessel for them to bring back Neo, for one.
Yeah.
And for two, to kind of show that Neo was still human and had emotions after he became omnipotent, or however you want to, he became woke, you know, to the world around him. But the romance between Trinity and Neo, it just felt so forced and so rushed, and there was really no buildup to it other than, you know, maybe a couple looks at each other. But it was like, I just didn't like it. It rubbed me the wrong way.
And the reasoning is so dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, the Oracle told me that I'm gonna fall in love with the one.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, that's dumb. Just you fucking shoehorned this character into, like, actually, like, not giving her any choices anymore. Because like now, like, the next person that she falls in love with, like, that's the one. It's like,
and it's sad because beginning of the movie, I really liked Trinity's character. I really enjoyed the character, but as you move throughout the movie, it just seems more and more like she's just this blind zealot to Morpheus and the Oracle. And it's like, God, you're just a husk that's just killing these people and going along with the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She, if I remember correctly, in the second one, she gets a lot more time to shine and like be be the badass that she's, you know, supposed to be.
I really hope so, because it left me lacking in this movie for sure.
Yeah. That being said, this movie has like inspired creativity throughout like all mediums. This is like one of the most like quintessential 90s movies of all time.
Yeah.
You know, you have weird offshoots in games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, where like, you know, he just recreates the entire corridor scene where, you know, just shooting up these fucking these teddy bears and shit. So like
Great boy.
And Grandma's Boy, that's another great one where you know the main the main nerd is just like he's
Neo wannabe.
Yeah, basically.
Neo wannabe, yeah. I love that.
So yeah, it's a great movie. I definitely don't want to like say like damn it forever, but like it's definitely got its flaws that as an adult don't really jive with anymore.
Right. and another point about it being one of the quintessential 90s movie, I think it really changed how action movies are in Hollywood.
Yes, I agree.
With camera angles specifically, I think the camera work in this movie was a masterpiece. Some of the one of the scenes I remember is when Neo is running away from Agent Smith and all those Trinity is running away from Agent Smith and all those NYPD cops when they first bust her. They're running on the rooftops and stuff like that, and just the insane camera angles that they shoot. They do that undershot in the alleyway where it shows the cops jumping over the two buildings. Then it shows Trinity jumping over the street to the building across the street, which is an awesome shot. They do a 360 shot with those 360 cameras that they, again, another thing that they made for this movie was those 360 shots where it just panned around them like that, you know. It definitely created so many different, it pushed the limits to how camera work can be done and how CGI work could be done at the time, and I really appreciate that out of this movie. I think it did a lot to help the movie industry going forward.
Did kind of want to go back to your gripe with the whole love story. I remember this one scene where Neo is certain that he's not the one, and he's like trying to convince everybody else that he's not the one, and Trinity's just standing there looking upset because you can tell she's already in love with him, so how could, you know, it doesn't make sense. So it was just like very early on, it was already kind of there. Yeah,
essentially.
And I think that's funny because that's actually the scene I was thinking of in my head when I mentioned that Trinity just kind of seemed like a lost puppy, blind zealot to what was going on. Just her face in that scene. Yeah, just her face in that scene. I'm like, oh, I thought you were stronger than that. You know, like you're really lost in the sauce here with this whole the one thing, which I mean, it turned out to be true. I guess like you can't say anything about it, but I mean, at the same time, at that moment, it's completely ridiculous, and Morpheus seems like he's just gone absolutely crazy.
And at that point, I feel like they'd only really even known each other for like maybe a couple of days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm not a love at first sight kind of person.
oh yeah, no, I
So
agree. I don't know how much time has passed in the movie.
It's
I mean,
only a
like,
couple days, I think. It really isn't that much time, if you think of it.
maybe. I really couldn't. I can't tell because like
there wasn't much of a delineation.
yeah,
I
like
think the only time jump we really get is whenever Neo goes unconscious, obviously,
Yeah.
between when he gets bugged and then wakes up in his room and gets called by them to meet him at the bridge so they can suck the bug out. And then there was that time where I hated
that could have gone my whole life without seeing that.
Yep. Terrible.
Like when they first pulled him out of the goo, he's like completely bald, and then when he
Yep.
finally comes to, he's got like, you know, Aang fuzz on his head.
Yeah. So
I
that probably could have
don't-
been a couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't like the goo pod.
No.
I absolutely hate the goo pod.
Especially
have
when you
no-
figured out later on that the goo is just liquefied humans.
People.
I have nightmares about the goo pod.
Oh man. I do remember seeing that scene as a kid and just
Yeah,
being terrified. I was like, "Oh my god, is this real?"
they made it.
Not even so much the goo for me, it was watching him pull that tube out of his throat.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
That made my
Ugh.
throat hurt just watching it.
And like just seeing all of the fucking wires that are like
Mm.
in him, like I
Mhm.
feel that when I see it.
Yeah.
Ugh,
It's
God.
I kind of at the same time I kind of wish they showed a little more of the, I guess, what would you call it, the real world. I'm assuming, like you said, we get more into it in the next two movies.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at those Strider things, harvest like these plants that are just humans, it was so crazy to me. And seeing the spiders and stuff, it seems like they modeled their whole system of how they, you know, breed humans after how spiders lay their eggs and stuff like that. There's so many different intricacies that I think they really just flashed, and I just want to really know more about that world. So that I guess is another reason why I'm kind of excited to watch these next two movies, is to see more how the real world works.
Yeah, you definitely get more of the real world. And I mean, I guess that's good. I don't know. I look at it and just like we get so far away from what the Matrix is, and like the movie's
Right.
called The Matrix.
Yeah.
I don't know what this says about my brain, but the only scene I remember from either of the other two, because I guess I watched a different one a long time ago, but the only scene I remember was the sex scene with the sentinels or whatever closing in on the city. And it's just like,
Oh yikes!
that's all I remember.
Yeah.
2 hours of a movie, and that's the
It's
only
sex
thing.
scene.
It's a big old cave city, and everyone's just fucking because it's the last night, and the next day is going to be the big war with the robots.
Good
And-
God.
We all have to just go. We all just have to fuck like rabbits. It's the last night.
Sodom and Gomorrah before the end of the world. Just
Yep.
end it. That's funny. God damn.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm super upset that Cypher just fucking murked everyone.
Yeah.
There were really cool characters. That was a cool cast, and like everyone just got killed besides Neo, Morpheus, Trinity, and it wasn't APOC. Dozer.
No, Dozer's the big guy that died, who was killed. It was the younger brother of Dozer, if I
Yeah,
can
what's
find
his
his
name?
name.
forget
It
what his name
is
is.
Tank.
Tank. Yeah, I love Tank.
Yeah.
Tank's so fucking cool.
I'm okay
I
that
liked
Mouse
the
died.
perv, but I really liked Mouse. He was
You liked Mouse?
cute. He
I
was a
couldn't
cutie.
stand Mouse. He was a little
He's a
bastard.
little
Sledge,
And
but
also,
He's a little scummy.
let's be
but,
fair,
you know.
he went out like a chump. He had 2 drum
Oh,
barrel
God.
submachine guns on his hips, just hip firing at them, and didn't hit a goddamn thing.
Nope.
He went out like a
Okay.
complete chump compared to the rest of them.
Dumbass haircut too.
Oh
Like,
god, it was
why did
terrible.
he pick that.
And he was just
was it
so.
a bowl cut?
Yeah, it was like really close to a bowl cut. But no, like those two. What's up?
Maybe I'm remembering wrong.
I don't know. Like the the dual miniguns, that was a cool scene, and I really just wish he had hit somebody.
Anybody. Hit a wall, for Christ's sake, you know.
And and Switch dying, like,
yeah,
not like this. Not like
this.
I die every time I see that scene.
That was, yeah, now that I think about it, that was pretty frustrating because that crew seemed just like an amazing crew. And, you know,
yeah.
I look at other entertainment mediums that have crews like that. Obviously, my favorite video game series of all time is Mass Effect. And, you know, I love those stories of a small crew that are cohesive and they just go about the world and, you know, they try and save things, like Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, is another example.
Oh.
And just watching all these people drop like flies, not just one, not just two, but I mean, they're just boom, 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 boom. They're just killing off this cast. I'm like, this is just terrible. I
didn't really feel much when that happened because, like, we didn't really get to see much of those characters that they did kill off. It was just it just seemed like they were getting rid of.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily feel any certain type of way towards individual characters. I guess I felt a little bit for Dozer just because his brother, you know, he was the brother of Tank, you know, and that was sad to see his brother get killed. That obviously devastated him. But yeah, individually those characters dying, not so much, but just knowing that, you know, for what little time we had with this crew, they seemed like a really fun crew that were just cohesive with each other, and to watch them all just drop like flies like that, it seemed very unceremonious, I guess you should say. But yeah,
Cypher definitely got what he fucking deserved.
Oh, I was so mad at
fucking shitlord.
He Cypher, who plays him? Joe Pantoliano. What an Italian name. Joe Pantoliano. Oh, I can't even say it fast.
Don't even try. Don't even try.
Joe Pants. Joe Pants.
No, don't say that either. Like, just call him Joe.
Joe did a great job as Cypher because I hated him. Like, and that's what a villain's got to do in a movie. Cypher did a great job at his thing. He just seems such a scumbag when he was eating that steak with that smug look on his face, talking to Agent Smith. I was just like, oh, I hope you get your shit kicked in. You know, I was mad at him, but.
And I don't think that Hugo Weaving has done a single bad role.
No,
he is.
Oh my gosh,
he knocks it out of the park every single time. Red Skull, Lord Elrond. I'm blanking now. I only said two, but he's in so many fucking movies.
This guy.
You know, it's just he's such a great actor.
He's a quintessential villain character, and he does it so well. Absolutely.
Half the reason I want to watch The Matrix in the first place is because I want to see more Agent Smith. Yeah, like I care less about Mr. Anderson. So, and like whenever he says Mr. And like I don't know. You know, it's just
someone sounds like the fangirl.
I might be a simp. I might be simping for
Agent Smith.
For Agent Smith.
There could be worse people to simp for. All right.
Yeah.
Now I guess I don't think I care about spoiler warnings for movies that came out in 2003. If you haven't seen it by now, you haven't seen it by now. But does Agent Smith come back in the next two movies? Like, are we gonna see him again, or is he gone?
No, he is the main villain for every single one.
It looked like he got blasted at the end of this movie.
Yeah, there's a really cool part in the second one that I thought was in this movie, or maybe it's in the third one. I can't really. Obviously I've got my movies a little mixed up, but there's a really cool part. I don't want to spoil it for you because it sounds like you don't remember anything.
Hardly.
But I can't wait to talk about it because it's like one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
That Agent Smith is a part of.